Earlier this week, a Suffolk County jury found a landlord and building owner negligent in a rape and assault case. A woman was brutally attacked in her office in a building with a faulty lock and improperly secured door. The jury found that the landlord and building manager did not do enough to protect their tenant from harm and were in part responsible for the attack. The nearly $800,000 awarded by the court is the largest by a Massachusetts jury in a negligence case involving rape, but the emotional and psychological scars suffered by the victim are still a terrible burden. I want you to meet Suzanne Friday. She is, let me say another way, a survivor of a rape and assault. And her attorney, Jeffrey Newman, joins us this morning. Good morning to both of you. I bet you prefer survivor, don't you?
Yes, I think so.
To victim.
Yeah, well, that doesn't really matter.
Take us back to what happened even before the assault. What was going on in conversation between you and your landlord?
Well, we had a few conversations, a letter, a few personal visits by him to me, to my office. And I requested a new door, starting at December 5th.
This is the outside door to the building?
The outside downstairs street door, which was the main door. Yes, I requested a safe door. Many things were wrong with it. Broken hinges, bad wood, cracks, as you just saw on the television, cracked locks that operated sometimes, but not always.
So you were afraid?
I was, definitely. I felt very insecure.
This is, you call this area the Times Square of Boston, Suzanne. It's Mass Ave and...
It's Mass Ave in Boylston. It's Berkeley Performance Center, Symphony Hall, lots of nice restaurants, homeless people,
an eclectic
students.
neighborhood.
An eclectic neighborhood, yes, definitely.
What happened that night? You say it was a beautiful summer night. The sun was still shining.
It was lovely. It was May 1st, and the sun was not quite set, and I was working on some extra... I had a lot of work piled up for the weekend, and I was trying to get some of it done that night. And a very slow day. Clients weren't coming in very much, which was great for me. And
this is a word processing business, right?
Word processing, typing, editorial, language. We did a lot of things there. And I was sitting at my computer when suddenly the lights started flickering. I had locked the door, by the way, at around 6:30. And totally alone, and the lights started flicking over my head, back and forth, as if someone was switching the switch. And so I continued working, ignored it. It happened again. And then when it happened again, I went out to the little hallway and started looking at the switches and turned around to look at the room to see what was wrong. That was the last thing I remember.
You were hit over the head?
I was, I'm not sure, I had lumps on my head and my back all over. I was unconscious.
When you got to the hospital, you regained consciousness, but you, as many victims do, you moved through this.
I moved through the next half hour. I physically did what any woman would do to help herself in a situation like this. I went to the phone and dialed 911. I went down and locked the door to make sure it was locked.
You don't remember this? You've been told this?
I don't remember any of this. When the ambulance came and the detectives came, they were practically breaking the door down to get in until I came down.
And that obviously is a part of the defense here, wasn't it, Jeffrey, for you? This tremendous psychological trauma. I don't think anyone, unless they've been in the situation, realizes that you can forget what's gone on, forget the date, a lot of things, right?
That's right. Part of the defense was that because Suzanne Friday could not remember the actual rape, she should not warrant substantial damages. And of course, the psychological fact is that it's much harder for many rape victims to get past this if they cannot remember. And this was presented through psychological evidence at trial.
The owner of the building and the insurance company tried to present a case that was pretty sleazy against Suzanne. I can't believe it still goes on, but it does. Did you want to protect her from an actual hearing, an actual trial?
Well, it is always my attempt to settle cases such as this if it's possible to do so, because of the potential harm it might cause my clients to go on the witness stand and go through a trial. The unfortunate fact is that jurors in Massachusetts have historically not valued psychological damage as greatly as other states, and therefore the insurance carriers know that they may not be have to pay so much money
if they go to trial.
If they go to trial.
This kind of turned that around, didn't it?
We hope it does.
Do you think it will set a precedent?
Well, I think so. I think that any insurance carrier, if there is insurance, looking at this verdict will certainly know that a juror can find sufficient amount of money such as this, and they will pay more money. But it's hard to say. Each case really turns in its own facts.
You know what's interesting? You and I were talking before, and you said had Suzanne been a man requesting a different lock on the door, it would have happened. And I think any woman even watching who has attempted to say to a service organization, you didn't do your job correctly, finds that when her husband calls, there's a different kind of a reaction. It's an interesting comment.
Well, I think that what it does is a testament to Suzanne Friday's courage. The fact is that this occurrence would not have even happened had Suzanne been a man. And my hope is, our hope is that women who are working, who are having difficulty with their landlords, will point to this case and say, look, if you don't listen to me, if you'll only listen to a man, I will take you to the jury.
Because out-of-court settlements don't really get the publicity or the press, and they don't make the necessary changes that a court case makes.
That's right. That's an unfortunate circumstance. A lot of out-of-court settlements aren't even reported.
Where are you now psychologically? What's going on? You went through nightmares and a lot of trauma, didn't you?
Yes, I'm on my way to total recovery, I hope. I feel better. The trial was a tremendous strain. The stress of it was terrible.
Was it the stress in thinking that you wouldn't win?
Yes, and I mean, like anyone, I have very little knowledge of the judicial system in terms of the jury and the judge, and I'm not a New England person. I'm thinking we're going to get a stiff old judge up there who really doesn't like ladies, and, you know, all kinds of things go through your head. The jury, as it turned out, was really with me on this.
The man who did this to you is still on the streets. You don't even know.
This is something, yes, yes.
You don't know who he is? You don't even know what he looked like.
Several people have said, why don't you go under hypnosis and find out in your head in there who it is? I don't think. I've done a lot of thinking about this. I really don't think I want to. Although, as you point out, he is out on the street, for all we know.
Do you have a sense, could you profile him for us? Who do you think he is? What do you think he's like?
I've pretty much come to the conclusion that he's no one that I know. For a while, I thought it might be a client that I knew vaguely. He had been in there once or twice. No, I don't think it is. I think it's simply, it's somebody off the street who has an MO of doing this kind of thing. I don't think he's totally disturbed either, which is what we find with men who rape, that they're really very sick mentally. I think there are all types of rapists out there now.
I mean, there are kind of the guy who functions almost looks normal, but...
He's aggressive, he's sick, yes, he's neurotic. But he's not, he doesn't break into these shops and offices and so forth to steal, because there were a lot of things he could have stolen.
One other thing, for cynics who might be watching who say, she'll be fine, she just won $800,000, you would much prefer that this hadn't happened, wouldn't you?
Of course, I prefer.
It's changed your life?
It has totally changed my life. My two daughters, who are in their 20s, came over to Boston to be with me through the trial, and they have broken down twice. Both of them have broken down and cried. The strain has been so much. To see my whole life reviewed in that courtroom, all of the documents, all of the testimony, and you know, a lot of personal parts of your life.
Absolutely. In
a loud voice broadcast in the courtroom. And it never dawned on me until about 2 days ago. My one daughter just burst into tears like a 10-year-old and said, "Mom, please, no more. No more talk about it."
The whole family goes through the horrors of this.
Yeah.
Well, Jeffrey, you did a good job.
Thank you.
And I'm sure Suzanne's glad.
He certainly did.
And
I compliment him.
The interesting thing is you were trying to pull your life together and went to his office to apply for a job.
Yes, isn't that amazing?
And ended up saying, represent me, right?
Yes.
You told him the story.
We found out we had something we could work on together.
Well, I think all women, and I think men watching, are very grateful that this happened, because if a man has ever had anyone who he loves who's been raped, he knows how horrible it is for him, too. So.
Yes, and I'd like to say to any woman out there working in business by herself or in any small business where she may be alone at any time, do be careful, but go and pursue the right steps. If you have problems with security or anything,
insist on it.
You know, go over his head, and we know who he is.
Yeah.
And find a lawyer.
Okay, Suzanne, good words. Thanks for being here, and I wish you the best of luck. And thank you, Jeffrey, very much.